Hannah is praying before the Lord. Remember, Eli is in the temple and he's watching. She's praying to the Lord, and she's going for it. She's saying everything that's in her heart. She's pouring out her soul. She's distressed. She's in anguish. All of this stuff is going on. Now, Eli is present, and the scripture also says that he is observing. So he's watching. He's listening. He sees her. He sees her countenance, her body language. He sees everything that's going on. And this is how we ought to position ourselves as a church and as a community, and that's to be present. And then I think that's to be people that are observing, people that are watching, people that are listening, people that see people in their distress and in their anguish. And as he's watching, he sees, hey, this woman is talking, but I don't hear a voice. There's nothing coming out of her mouth. It just looks like her lips are moving, but there's nothing coming out of her mouth. And he's specifically looking at her mouth. And I think this is important here in the scripture, because out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So he's trying to see, what is this woman speaking? What is she saying? But he's confused because her lips are moving, but there's nothing that's happening. So he thinks that there's something that's off. He actually thinks that she's drunk. He thinks she's been drinking. And so he comes to her and he addresses her. And he basically just says to her, hey, when are you going to put the wine bottle down? When are you going to stop drinking? You can't come into the temple like this. And she responds, and she begins to tell him all that was in her heart. And the next thing I think that we see that Eli does well is he listens. So we see him being present, we see him observing, and we see him listening. He's actually listening to her problems. He's listening to her stressors. He's listening to her anxieties. He's listening to these things that have been happening on a daily basis with Peninnah. He's listening to these things that have been happening annually as their family travels to the temple. He's listening and he's taking in, and because he's listening, he's able to empathize with what's going on in her life. And I love what he does. He doesn't take this information and now demonize her. He doesn't take this information and now say you filled with the devil because there's some sort of mental health or well-being issue that you're going on with. There's some sort of spirit, but he actually, he listens and he treats her with dignity. And he treats her like a human being, and he treats her like a person, like with some decency. And I know in the scripture we see cases where people do have demons, and they have opened up themselves to different spirits and different things, and I know that's very real. I don't want to minimize that. And I think as a church, we need to minister to those things as well and be prepared for those as well. But throughout the times, as a church, what we have done is we've thrown everything into this one category. So if there's any type of mental health or well-being issue that you're going through, then it must be some sort of demon. And that's just not the truth, and that's not the case here. Hannah is stressed and she's anxious because of these expectations that have been placed on her life. And she finds herself not okay. And Eli was willing to listen. He was willing to be present. He was willing to observe her. He was willing to be a safe space for her to have this conversation. He became a place of trust. He became a bridge, and now there's this individual in Hannah's life that can begin a journey and can begin to walk with her.